We've gone live. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to West Devon Borough Council Virtual Development Management Meeting. As you heard, we are being live streamed direct to YouTube for anybody who wishes to see and hear our proceedings. Before we start, I'll just go through, we have our normal bit of housekeeping that we need to go through. So this is just a reminder, please, for all attendees to mute your microphones to reduce the background noise. And for members of the committee only, they can use the chat box to indicate if you wish to declare an interest or raise a question or take part in the debate. Any of our officers might well use the chat box as well to indicate they wish to speak. If anybody does lose internet connection, then the meeting will be adjourned briefly just to allow you to come back online. Obviously, it won't be possible to adjourn the meeting in the event that members of the press or the public who are watching on YouTube lose their internet connection. Normally I would outline the procedure for the applications, but I will put that on abeyance for a moment until we get to the application that we have before us and go through that process as and when if that's necessary. If any member, just to remind you, has a disclosable peculiar interest, then you will need to leave the meeting for the duration of the relevant application and will be required to disconnect from the call. You will be invited back to the meeting once the application has been determined. And please could I remind members, as always, to remain focused on any application or agenda item being considered and keep questions and comments short, relevant and to the point. A minute taker will find it harder than normal to identify who is speaking and what is being said. So please do speak clearly and at a reasonable pace. And where an officer wishes to speak, they will indicate using the chat facility. I'm now going to ask Mrs. Hall to take a roll call to make sure all can hear and be heard and to confirm the meeting is quorate, and after that she will introduce the officers. Thank you, Mrs. Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Cheadle.
I'm here and I can hear everything, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crozier.
I'm also here and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Hipsey.
I'm present and I can hear you.
Thank you. Councillor Mott.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Moyes.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe.
I'm present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Renders.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Vachon.
Present and I can hear.
Thank you. And Councillor Yelland.
I'm present and I can hear.
Thank you. And just for clarification for those listening to this meeting, I can confirm the following members are, the following officers are present. Pat Weimer, Head of Planning, David Fairbairn, Solicitor, Janice Young, the Gatekeeper, Phil Townsend, Highways DCC, and Catherine Hall, myself, Democratic Services Officer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I can see that Councillor Pearce does have a question. If we can make a start just on the agenda, Councillor Pearce, if that's all right with you. And
Chairman, I would just like to bring to your attention, we seem to have got a number of people attending who are anonymous. Their pictures are not coming up in the frame and also their names. And I'm just wondering why that is happening.
I think that might be your system because I can actually see the names. I can actually see people's names, and if you click on the participants list on the left-hand side, you can see who the visitors are.
Yeah, I've done that. Okay, I'll give it another go.
Sorry, Chair, can I just say, Councillor Pearce, if you hover over the box, the name should come up.
Right, okay, thank you.
But we do know everybody who is present. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will start off with the agenda. Any apologies for absence, Mrs. Hall?
We have no apologies, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest, and members are invited to declare any personal or disclosable pecuniary interests, including the nature and extent of such interest they may have in any items to be considered at this meeting. You could either declare now or as and when we reach the relevant application. Does anybody have anything to declare?
Yes, Chairman, I would declare a personal interest as the member of the Devon Building Control Partnership. So I'll declare an interest in the application that's coming before us for that reason.
Thank you. And I'll declare a personal interest probably on behalf of the whole committee, because we have actually, all of us, I think, being emailed with a letter from one of the objectors. Okay. Thank you.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. Item 3, items requiring urgent attention. There aren't any, to my knowledge. Confirmation of minutes. This is the meeting that was held on the 1st of September 2020. So members, just looking at your agenda, are there any errors and omissions on, if you can indicate in the chat facility if anything you wish to raise, any errors and omissions on page 1, page 2, or page 3? I know it says up to page 4 on your agenda, but that page is blank. If there are none, is everybody happy that I sign these as a true and accurate record? Anybody has an issue, please could you indicate in the chat box? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Moving now to item 5, which is planning application 0629/20/reserves matters application. Normally we'd hand over to the planning officer on this one, but I'm actually going to ask Mr. Fairbairn if he would like to speak on this to start with, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, good morning, members. I know you will have received over the weekend a representation or containing a number of allegations concerning the planning officer's report in respect to this application. Given that the planning officer is engaged in a planning inquiry today and is therefore not able to attend, and given the number of allegations, irrespective of whether there's any substance in them, it is my view and the view of the planning that this item should be deferred to allow the report and the allegations to be considered, and then obviously presented to you at the following meeting when the planning officer is available. Accordingly, I'm asking you to defer this item without any further discussion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I am therefore happy to propose deferral from the chair. Is there a seconder for that?
Happy to second, Chairman. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you very much indeed. Then I think we just literally go straight to a vote on this one. We can vote by exception. If anybody is not happy with the deferral, please could you indicate in the chat box? Okay, so I think that is carried. Mr. White, are you happy with that?
Thank you, Chair. There is nobody indicating a wish to vote against the deferral, so I think we can assume that is approved by unanimous vote. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate that we do have visiting or registered speakers, and obviously you will be notified when it does come back up before onto the agenda again, which will hopefully be in October, and you will then have your opportunity to have your 3 minutes to speak. So thank you very much for your attendance this morning to our registered speakers. Okay, we will now move on to item number 6, which is the planning performance indicators. Over to you, Mr. Weimer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. As usual, I'll go through these relatively swiftly, but answer any questions that members may have. So if we start at the it's page 17. The top 2 bar, or the top 4 bar graphs are in respect of performance. The way this performance is reported to DCLG now, it used to be majors, minors and others, but it's now majors and non-majors. The top 2 graphs, the black line is the level of performance at which we should attain. If we're below the black line, then we're in danger of designation. For non-majors, we're above that on all quarters. For majors, on the last quarter of, so January through to April, we dipped below that. But if you look over a rolling 2-year, which is what we've measured on, we're okay. So it's disappointing we had a dip in that one quarter, but overall it's I'm broadly comfortable with where we are. The number of applications registered, you'll appreciate this is a little bit of an odd year for trying to predict workload. The applications understandably dipped significantly in April and May compared to what we would normally expect. They carried on pretty much as usual through March. I think that's probably architects and agents clearing the desks. Then there was a little bit of a dip. It then picked up significantly in June and July. It's a slightly different figure for what's on the report. The report has applications registered because that's what we have to send back to the government. I tend to look at applications that were valid, so actual work that we have to be doing, and I include tree apps in that. And we had 94 applications in June and 102 in July, and we normally average around just over 70, 73, 74. So there was a bit of a rise in that. And if you compare where we are this year to last year, so at the end of August, from January through to August this year, we've received 630 applications, where it was 605 last year. So there hasn't been a reduction in the number of applications coming through due to COVID. So we're now up, and that reflects certainly reflects South Hams as well. Where South Hams are up, and I think most of the rural Devon authorities appear to be up. So the numbers are still. The workload is still coming in, or the work is still coming in. In terms of fee income, you have to apologise. I have to apologise, members. The box that says Q1 shouldn't be there, and it masks where the Q1 income was. And in the first quarter, so April through to June, the planning income was just over 123,000, so it was very high for what we would, let's say, double what we've got 1920 in Q1. The pre-app income is low because we stopped taking pre-apps between March and May, mainly because we had to work out how we would do actually meet people and deal with pre-apps. That has now we reopened those in May, June, and you can see that the number in terms of pre-apps received on the line below, that's they are coming in. And then finally, with enforcement, the number of outstanding cases is broadly the same. So we are closing pretty much the same number that come in, and you'll note through the first quarter that this year that we had more cases in than we have done over the previous few quarters. I'm hopeful that the outstanding numbers will start to go down, because there's been a number of people in enforcement who have been working on other streams, particularly to do with the COVID, but that's now stopped now, and they're now back on enforcement. So I am anticipating that number will actually start to drop. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. Any members, do you have any questions? I think the only thing I would say, which is a comment really, is that the enforcement cases which are outstanding, as you say, they do seem to be in a fairly sort of steady state, not really significantly going up or down between 2019 and, well, you've estimated up to 2021, I think. bit blurred. But
So that's just the first quarter of 2021. So it's April, May, June of this year.
April of this year, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it would be good to see a little bit of movement on those beginning to go down, because that's something that certainly the public do get themselves a little bit bent out of shape on enforcement cases that are outstanding. So
I wouldn't disagree with you, Chairman. The only thing I would highlight in defence of enforcement is that if you look at the number of new cases that we received in the first quarter of this year, which was higher than we've received any other quarter on that graph, but we've still kept the outstanding cases at that same level. So we are clearly closing more than we have done in the past, because we haven't seen a spike in number of outstanding cases that matched the increase in the number of cases received.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, and I appreciate the challenges that all officers are facing in terms where anything requires a visit. Okay, yep. I have Councillors Crozier, Pearce and Hipsey. So Councillor Crozier, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm a little concerned because I know enforcement officers weren't on the road, but are they on the road now? Because
yes.
I asked the question because I have emailed, chased up a couple of cases, and I haven't had any reply to either of them. And the latest one was a fortnight ago.
Yes, they are doing visits now.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Thanks, Chairman. My question was roughly the same. I mean, what has happened is that we seem to have had quite a long lockdown, whereby officers were not going out on the road for quite a considerable period, whereas the developers had started working within 6 weeks of the original start of lockdown. And the problem is that where issues were being raised was that the response we were getting when we were reporting it was that the officers were unable to go out on site, which I found quite strange. I mean, we've got most of our developments are in the open air and can be viewed from the highway. So I was just concerned, has this applied to South Hams as well? Is it right across the board that our enforcement officers had an extended length of time? You've actually said that they were involved in the COVID work, so that illustrates to some degree why work wasn't being done on enforcement. But I'm just concerned about the length of time that our officers seem to be, working from a desk rather than going out on the road. Thank you, Chairman.
Members, I can assure you that the way that the enforcement team was working in South Hams was exactly the same as it was working in West Devon. There was no difference between the two.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hipsey.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we're all aware that the COVID crisis is far from over, sadly. But I wonder if any consideration had been given to, in the longer term, analysing the effect of the coronavirus on planning, and particularly the financial implications that Mr. Weimer's very kindly pointed out. I'm thinking particularly in as much as there was quite a lot of debate about whether we should continue with our planning functions and how much we should do. So it just seems to me that it would be sensible, when we approach the end of this period, that we spend a bit of time to analyse the impact it's had. Thanks.
I think that's quite a difficult one to answer, because at the moment we're getting more applications in than we've had over the last 2 years for the similar period. So in terms of volume of work coming into the authority, that hasn't really had. There was a little bit of a downturn, but that's, I say, we're now above where we were this year and the year before in terms of total numbers. The financial position isn't really a numbers game, because the total amount you get in is more affected by the number of major applications you get in, where you've got a fee of say 30, 40, 50 grand, where compared to your domestic extensions, where it's between sort of £200-300 a fee. So you'd have to get a significant number of minor applications in, or household applications in, to match those large applications. And it's across the board over the last 3, 4, 5 years, the numbers of applications we get in are relatively stable, but the fees bounce up and down simply down to whether we get or how many of those larger applications we receive. But I'm not seeing, in terms of volume of applications, as I'm not seeing a downturn at all.
Yeah, thanks. I can see now you pointed out the statistical difficulty in doing analysis of that kind. So yeah, thank you very much, Pat. That makes perfect sense.
Councillor Cheadle.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my question is completely far field, I'm afraid. Having abandoned the planning application that we were going to consider today, will we be reissuing the paperwork ahead of the next meeting, or should we hang on to the paperwork we've got?
I will answer that, and if I get it wrong, I'm sure Darryl or David will come in. The agenda and the report will be reissued in the normal way and republished in the normal way, whether or not there are changes to the report. And until we've gone through the allegations made, I can't say whether there will or won't be. But it will be reissued and republished as it would be normally. Darryl, I'm assuming that is correct.
Yeah, that's spot on, Pat. It will form part of the next or the one after it. As soon as it's ready to go, it will form part of the relevant agenda.
Thanks very much. Those with keen ears will hear the shredder working already.
Real power push on the electricity as the grid goes into meltdown. West Devon Borough Council Committee. Okie dokie. Right, so if there's no more questions on that one, then we will move to agenda item 7, which is the appeals. Again, back to you, Mr. Weimer.
Thank you. Very straightforward this month. What we're reporting to is four new appeals that have been lodged, but none with decisions.
Well, that's short and sweet. Any members, any questions on any of those appeals at the moment? No. Mr. Weimer, did you want to say anything about the Widden Down appeal that's due to come up next week?
I suppose only other than that it is a hearing, a virtual hearing that's happening next week. I think it's Tuesday. Might be, I can't remember the exact date, but I know it is happening next week, and hopefully we'll get a relatively swift decision after that. But I wouldn't guarantee it. Some decisions seem to be taking a reasonable amount of time to come out of the inspectorate at the moment. Some are quite quick, but some are taking a significant amount of time. With your indulgence, Chair, just one other thing for next week. Members will be aware that, and this was following on from a request from Councillor Moyes, I think 2 committees ago. We have set up a training session next Tuesday morning with a gentleman called Graham Gover to go through the changes to the permitted development. I'm sure it's Councillor Moyes who asked if we could set up a session, and that has been set up for next Tuesday morning. Thank you.
Yes, lovely, thank you, and I hope all members will be attending that. Yes, the appeal for Widden Down is actually on Wednesday the 7th, because I have it in my diary. Opting to attend. Okay, lovely. And that, I think, members, is probably the quickest development management meeting we've had in history. It is 9:55, near enough, and unless there are any further questions, then I declare the meeting closed. And Vicky, if you could just confirm that the live streaming has stopped. Lovely. Thank you all very much indeed, everybody. You have a morning